Hi Virgo Sun and Rising. This is a video about the transits of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius beginning in December 2020 and continuing throughout the year 2021, and for Saturn beyond that. And for Virgo, this is happening in the house that you rule, the sixth house of health, daily routines, and the work that you do. And so this makes it even more of a familiar area in life that you already have a handle on and understand quite well. So that can be beneficial on that level as well. So at the time when these two planets converge, and this is going to be at the time of the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, when the sun is ready to come back out from its depth and get stronger and stronger, this is the time, well, if you're from the southern hemisphere, then you're like, no, actually, we're going to start losing light. But it's a change of season, and in every change of season, the sun goes into a cardinal sign, and this indicates that it's either the equinox or the solstice. So it's a power period in and of itself. It's right before Christmas in this particular case, so it's during the holiday season. So I think it's going to be quite magical, and the sun is going into a fellow earth sign of yours, which is Capricorn, into the fifth house, which deals with fun, creativity, and love. And so while the sun is there, then you have these two planets in the more, I'd call it serious, area that deals with your productivity, your organization on a daily basis, and things like that. So before I go into each of these planets and how they will affect you, particularly, we have to decide whether or not having both of them in the same house at the same time can cancel each other out. Is it going to be a clash? What's going to happen? I think that it depends on how you view life itself. If you think that if you're a pessimistic person, you're going to say, oh, well, any benefits from Jupiter are going to be canceled out by Saturn, and Saturn is going to be the wet blanket. It's going to just, it's not going to, it's going to hurt the way that Jupiter expresses in this particular area. And I say no, I don't believe that. I think that what will happen is that it will curb some of those excess tendencies of Jupiter that can lead to overconfidence, and that means that people take chances that are not very wise. When people gamble with things that don't end up producing a payoff, or when you look at Saturn, excessive pessimism, thinking, having, what do they say, thinking too small about life and not having big enough dreams, and just kind of being ultra conservative when it comes to what you think you can expect as a result to an action that you take. And so you might just kind of underplay your hand. So this can bring balance, I think, and Jupiter can give Saturn more sense of generosity and belief that things will happen, and Saturn can give more restraint to Jupiter, which tends to be wasteful, excessive, whatever you want to call it. So Jupiter in the sixth house for Virgo, again, this is the house that you rule, so these themes are already front and center in your life. In terms of your daily schedule and your work, this could improve in some way. I want to give a shout out before I continue to Cafe Astrology, where I which helped me compile this list of what to talk about. I, kind of like add my own little flourishes, kind of fill out the talking points here. And one thing that I would say about this work environment improvement, how I see it is if you have a schedule that you find rather confining, this could indicate to me that you might be able to comprise a schedule or get a schedule that gives you more freedom. Jupiter is a ruler of Sagittarius and the ninth house, and it can deal with feeling more expansive in life as a whole. And for some Virgo people, being able to work from home, or if you are having a desire to travel, I didn't see anything mentioned about this, but I think that this could influence a person's desire to travel, especially when it's long distances, not just in the local area, for work, and therefore attract some kind of work where you can be stationed in far-flung places. Actually, the sixth house is the workplace, and with Jupiter, that can be expanded so that you're not feeling that you're confined to a cubicle. But even if you work for one company, they might have other outposts in various countries, and you might have that desire to travel and do that, and then you have that more expansive feeling. And that goes along with coworkers of the sixth house. So you might find that they're more helpful to you. Like if a planet like Pluto is transiting somebody's sixth house, they can find that they're having power plays with their coworkers, and it might not be as pleasant. But with Jupiter here, there's a benevolent influence. Your enjoyment of work increases. I don't know how they put it. They put it something how I would call grunt work. With the sixth house, it's the work itself. And the 10th house that we think of as the career, to me, is more of the glory, the fame and name that you receive from the work that you're doing. And so this is the actual work itself. And even if it's, I think they were talking about like menial tasks being the sixth house when they were talking about Jupiter, and saying that you'll find them more enjoyable. Of course, they didn't know I was reading for Virgos, and I think a lot of Virgos might mop the floor for a good time. Who knows? I mean, you tell me. So that your enjoyment of doing menial tasks and just your everyday running errands is more enjoyable for whatever reason. I think, especially if you have more freedom in your workplace scenario, that can make it so that if you, let's say you are doing a hybrid thing where you're going to work to the office 2 days and staying home 3 days or something like that, then you could say to yourself, now I can be more leisurely when I run my errands. I don't have to be so harried as I am when I'm working 40 hours a week outside of my home. I can actually enjoy standing in a UPS line. It doesn't bother me. Doing what you love. Now, I put this down myself because I feel like the sixth house is your dharma. It's your service to others. You could say the 10th house is your career choice, but to me, it's the actual type of career that you're choosing. But the sixth house is like the service that you're providing. So, you have a job title, but how do you serve? And that's where the menial tasks come in. Because even if you have a very impressive type of profession, like, there's certain professions that have a certain status attached to them, like being a doctor, for instance. Well, doctors do some things that are not so glamorous. They're not always just waltzing in and just talking to patients and the patient thinking they're a god. They actually have little things that they have to do throughout their day as part of their tasks. And some people may not like having to do those kinds of things. They just want that sense of glory of being this rock star type of an image. And yet Virgos, you're already acclimated to appreciating these kinds of things that you have to do every day. That's kind of where you're at. You pay attention to little details, and you love that kind of life of caring about that. And this makes it easier for you to, I think, attract the type of work that you do, looking at it from the perspective of, yes, there are certain things you have to do in work. You know, if you are getting respect for being a doctor, but you don't enjoy what you do, the actual actions that you have to take as a doctor, then what is the point? Having your ego fed can only go so far. So this is about really finding joy in a particular service to others, and maybe being lucky in it. Jupiter can bring luck to a particular area of life, and this is, the kind of work that you're doing. Serving others is easier. Jupiter makes things easier. And if you are somebody who, again, Virgos are the servants. I know some people got angry when I said that before, not understanding what I meant. It's associated with servitude, even slavery. But the thing is, being a servant is different. Being a slave is involuntary. Actually, Virgo isn't about being a slave. I was focusing on people with Saturn in their natal 6th house who may have a history from past lives of being slaves. But Virgo is the sign of the servant because of the 6th house connection to service to others. When I mentioned this, people were saying, I'm not a servant. Virgo people not understanding, taking it literally, and actually putting down people who are in that role of being a servant. There's nothing wrong with being a servant if that is something that you choose and you take pride in it. If you feel like you're forced into it, then it's more like slavery, isn't it? And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people with humility that don't need to be the one giving the orders. They're humble enough to take orders and to want to make other people's lives more comfortable. And that's what I was getting at. You can serve, you have to serve others in order to be good at what you do, or otherwise you're just serving yourself, and that's not true service. So it makes it easier for you to serve others. If you're somebody, maybe if this is your rising sign and your sun sign is in a sign that might be kind of haughty sometimes, like Leo or Aries, and you feel that you're supposed to be the one giving the orders, not taking the orders. And sometimes, unfortunately, this creeps into a person's work life where they are not putting their client first, their customer first, whoever, and they're making it about themselves, and that other person can feel the disconnect. But this is you really feeling good about serving others, and it's easy for you to do so. There's a positivity associated with it. This is very beneficial for all of your daily routines. This can actually be good for starting new health regimens and things like that. You might see your health improved, but it's also good for starting these self-improvement projects. And there was something that was similar. Well, you might just feel more useful. Like, other people need you more. And this can also be indicated by having more work than you know what to do with. Maybe you're getting phone calls of people wanting you to work for them. And that can feel really like, hey, they like me. They really, really like me. So I'm trying to think. So the thing that you have to watch out for is your weight. From my experience, and I'm thinking of, I don't know if I know any Virgo rising people, but definitely Virgo sun people tend to be thin from my estimation. But of course, there are people that are not going to fall along those lines. And I don't even know if there's anything to back me up on it astrologically. I'm just thinking of people that I know personally. So Jupiter tends to expand, and this can be with the health. But I think that is more relevant. There have been like a little bit of back and forth debating about this. I think that is more likely with Jupiter in your first house, because that's the house of the body. This is the house of health. So to me, if anything, this can expand your resources for being able to increase your health. And the other thing I want to say is that you want to be ethical in your behavior, which is associated with Jupiter, that kind of the morals and the ethics, because I put down here, it'll give you good karma. But what I mean is that, you reap what you sow, and if you are coming into a situation being very moralistic about it, and being above board when you're performing tasks for other people, for instance, then I think you will be rewarded by the universe for that, and you won't get any kind of blowback. So being ethical at this time can really pay off. But of course, it goes without saying that we should be ethical all the time, not just when Jupiter is in the 6th house. So let's talk about Saturn. So Saturn, gives a sense of duty. So when in the 6th house, you may feel like you have to work longer hours because perhaps there is some kind of responsibility that you feel to your employer. Now, if Jupiter is giving you this sense of, how can I put it, maybe more work, then it stands to reason that you're going to, if you're getting more work thrown your way, then you might have to work longer hours. And it just is what it is. So this might be a temporary thing, but you want to take advantage of it, perhaps. Cleaning up your act. So with Saturn in the 6th house, health may come into focus because Saturn can maybe create certain situations that you have to deal with. Now, this is not to say, I don't think that this is to say that you will definitely have health problems when Saturn is in the 6th house. But if you do, you know that the way out of that situation is to create a certain health regimen that you can follow with discipline, because Saturn is about discipline, in order to improve your situation. And so if you have had some kind of lax types of habits, maybe because of the shutdown, this disrupted just about everybody's schedule. So that meant that people may have fallen off the wagon with certain health practices that they were employing before, and they're kind of struggling to get back on track. Saturn can give you that backbone to do it, and also that sense of, you have to do this, and kind of make you parent yourself in that way. And if you are somebody who may already have your own business and work from home, if you have been kind of flailing around because everything has been turned upside down. Even now, these many months later, there have been new restrictions, and which can lead to more unemployment for some people, or at the very least, more off time. And perhaps for those Virgos for whom this was a novel experience, you may have just enjoyed having that free form time when you didn't have to actually account, for anything or anybody in your life. And now you might be saying, I want to achieve things. And so this can make you more productive. You can create a new schedule that really helps you to organize your life on a daily basis. And of course, that can increase productivity, but it can, just enhance your life in general. And because you rule this house, and because Saturn rules Earth sign Capricorn, this may not be another transit that you find like that clashes with who you really are. I think that Saturn really, especially it being in the 6th house, but anywhere that Saturn transits, you will probably align with the lessons that are generated from that. But definitely in the house that you rule, I think that you will not feel the Saturn influence as being restrictive. You're going to feel it probably in a very positive light. So it's kind of like a win-win, because Jupiter is also providing that kind of positivity. Okay, that's what I have for you, Virgo. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. If you want to look at 2021, if you want to look at your natal chart and see what's going on there, click on the link below to see what I offer. Take care. Bye.